Hello everybody and welcome to the Pure GT social races here at Le Mans. We are in the GTE car. Alongside me, as per usual on the Pure GT social races, is none other than my trusty co-commentator Ed May. And Ed, how are you doing?
I'm doing brilliantly and really looking forward to this evening here, the Pure GT social races, swapping out the Formula 3s for the GTEs. And we're going to a circuit that I really love to drive. It's one that, of course, is host to the prestigious 24 Hours of Le Mans. What a circuit this is, and it's going to be testing the drivers all the way through. You want to have low wing to really capitalise on the straights, but then you sacrifice a lot of that performance down through the final sector, going through the Porsche curves and the Ford chicane. So the drivers have to try and nurse the car through there. As we can see now, who's this coming out? This is Alec Westbrook coming across the line, not improving, but he is still P1 at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Considering we've got such a small grid, they are incredibly close at the top, aren't they? Alec Westbrook. Thank you very much, Matt Emmons, for the like on the stream, and also KTeams for the like and the share as well. Brilliant to have you guys along as per usual. But as I was saying, Alec Westbrook just a tenth ahead of Martin Thomas, who in itself is less than a tenth of a second ahead of Anthony Mott. Less than a tenth of a second away from is Paul Donkin. Then there is a little bit of a gap, admittedly, but considering it's such a long track here, Ed, it is quite significant that we have such a small amount of time between each driver.
Yeah, definitely. It's very close indeed. And you can imagine what the gaps would be like if the lap time was, say, 1.5 minutes long and not close to 4 minutes. So very thin margin separating these top drivers. And that means that we're going to be in for an excellent evening's racing. The North Sand Straight does help out a little bit of racing these sprint formats with the slipstream, keeping everyone nice and close together. I think I remember me and you in the comms box for an evening at Le Mans, if I remember, in the BSR Mazdas, and that was something that was very entertaining with the slipstream, keeping that exciting all the way to the end. So we're hoping for much the same here, and they often are quite exciting, aren't they, Pure GT races?
Yeah, exactly. I think it definitely was us two in the comms box for that one, because I believe we were broadcasting it as well, weren't we, here on Jacko Racing? I don't think Graham was along for the ride with us on that one, which is always a bit of a shame. But we're here now with the GTEs, and although they don't necessarily punch the same amount of air out of the way as the Mazdas, they're not quite as brick-like in their sort of aerodynamics. It is going to still be quite important to make sure that each driver doesn't really get too carried away in sort of what is probably known as the complexes in trying to lunge up each other's insides, because they know that once they get to the Mulsanne straights, and there are plenty of straights on this circuit, there is an opportunity to fight back. So Alec Westbrook, Anthony Mott, oh my days, have you seen the time difference between Anthony Mott and Martin Thomas? I think Anthony's put in a new time, promoted himself into second place, and now there's less than half a tenth between Mott, and then less than half a tenth between Mott and Thomas as well. So it's just going to be swapping and changing all the way through the order. But to be honest, with that slipstream, I wouldn't discount John Westbrook for getting a half-decent result as well, as long as he can keep it clean. Because even though he's a second back in pure pace, there could be all kinds of reasons for that. It could have been the fact that he just didn't get a slipstream unlike the others. He just can't get that sort of teamwork together. And in the race, he may well push forward and just attach himself to the rest of that pack.
Yeah, absolutely. It is those that very thin margins at the top, a hair's breadth separating Anthony Mott and Martin Thomas. 0.002 of a second. That is, well, blink and you'll miss it levels of difference. But then again, you can blink and miss the entire top three, couldn't you, when they come through, the margins being as close as they are. We're just seeing if John Westbrook can get an improvement and see what he can manage, as Martin Thomas has set a purple in the first sector, but no improvements after that point. So I'm not sure if Martin Thomas will be able to get higher up the order. Now we can see as he comes through now at the final couple of chicanes, you can really carry a lot of speed through the first one, but you have to get it slowed down for the third. Martin Thomas, 2,000 separating him from a front row grid start. As he comes across the line, will it be enough? It is not. Unfortunately, Martin Thomas not improving on that last lap, and it is the last lap because we are closing in on the final moments of qualifying. I don't think Paul Donkin's going to improve or come across the line in time, even though his lap time is looking very quick indeed.
Yeah, that is such a shame for Paul Donkin, because he had four green sectors, one purple, only one slower, so that would have been, I imagine, a top two, if not first place, to be honest. That was absolutely stunning lap from him. They just couldn't get it there in time. So let's bring you the grid order with Alec Westbrook on pole position, Anthony Mott in second place, and what a backdrop we've got there, that camera angle, looking up the start-finish straight at Le Mans. Martin Thomas in third, Paul Donkin fourth, John Westbrook in fifth, Richard Aber in sixth, Andy Montgomery seventh, Kevin McGlone in eighth, Alex Martin ninth, Michael Tucker rounding out the top 10, Max Hunt 11th, and Mark Hoskin in 12th. And then we do have a couple of other drivers, although I'm very aware that we're about to get going. We've got 13th Paul Wafer, Barry Rabbit in 14th, uncharacteristic for him, Havana Gevorgian in 15th, and Steve Gummer all the way down in 16th place.
Yeah, absolutely. As the jets fly overhead, we're getting ready, aren't we, to start the first race of the evening. Alec Westbrook on pole position, but the margins being as close as they are in qualifying, he's not going to have an easy time of it as Anthony Mott gets on the grid, and the first race of the evening is going to be shortly underway.
It is indeed, yeah, as the lights start to come on, you can hear the engine nose rise, and there's a bit of a jump in the background there by one of the Chevrolets, and he's already gone back to the pits knowing full well he'd get a drive-through penalty. What a start Martin Thomas has made from third place on the grid. He already looks like he's going to go up the inside for first place, although it's not much of an inside because there's not much of a braking zone into that quick right-hander. Into the left, up the inside goes Paul Donkin, and there's a huge crash as Carnage is going to take the second place driver out. One of the drivers, who's that, John Westbrook, has just drifted all the way through to first place, but that was incredible stuff off the start line there by Martin Thomas.
Yeah, Paul Donkin involved in that incident. That was the Porsche we saw getting struck on the side, getting collected by an incident. I think it potentially involving, I'm not sure who it was involving, but it was plenty of drivers that were in the mix. Yeah, you're right, Kevin McGlone was certainly one of them, but now as they make their way down the Mulsanne straight, oh, there's a slowdown here for Alec Westbrook. He took a little bit too much through Tetra Rouge. Easily done, didn't get back onto the circuit in time. And, well, that's a slowdown that's really going to hurt him. Meanwhile, further in front, you can see chopping and changing for second position. The Corvette of Richard Abra passing, hopefully, or at least it was heel hope, down the inside. But look at that. Out of nowhere, comes through the Ford, massively misjudges it. But he was able to get out ahead and avoid the concertina and the squeezing effect of all the other cars. He's got himself a slowdown now and drops back behind Richard Abra there.
Plenty of drama on the first lap here, not even halfway through the lap, I'd say. Going on to the second Mulsanne straight, obviously they stuck that chicane in just to try and make it a little bit more interesting, more than anything else, haven't they? But Martin Thomas, quite a way up the order, 4.97 seconds, basically 5 seconds, to the good of Richard Abra, and behind him, they're all stopping and changing. Alec Westbrook got a slowdown on what is possibly the worst place on the circuit, of any circuit. To be honest, a slowdown going on to the first Mulsanne. Alex Martin giving a little bit of a spin after misjudging that first chicane. Ends up going through the second one. If anything, worse, because they've had a spin and now they're down into 10th position. But Alec now all the way back up to third place, which you didn't probably think would happen quite so quickly. Richard Abra in second. And then Anthony Mott, Paul Wafer round out the top 5. John Westbrook is in 6th. Havana Gevorgian 7th. Paul Donkin has just moved himself up to 8th place, ahead of Mark Hoskin. And then Andy Montgomery rounds out the top 10.
Yeah, absolutely. So we can see now, following Paul Wafer, what can he manage there? The number 16 closest to us, having to go around the outside, around sort of the Gulf Straight as they make their way into Indianapolis. Are they going to try and make it too wide? No, you can see Wafer slotting behind Westbrook now. But this is a lovely bit of circuit, isn't it? You really have to send it into the right-hander, quickly get on the brakes to slow it down in time for the left that follows soon after. Go through it, they use the camera to carry the speed in, trying to avoid the gravel tap on the outside that likes to lure you into it. And then this corner I can never get right. Arnage, it's very difficult to spot your braking point, as Paul Wafer has just proven. Massive lock-up, and he loses a heap of positions.
He has indeed. In fact, he's already dropped out of the top 10. Kevin McGlone goes through, so Wafer now down in 13th position. Michael Tucker, he's losing places quicker than I can get my sentences out. Max Hunt goes into 13th place, so a big loss there for Paul Wafer when he was running really rather well. The lone Ford of Alex Martin up against Andy Montgomery. Sorry, it's not Andy Montgomery, it's Kevin McGlone, who is a recovering driver. Slots his way through into 10th place as the Ford tries to hold it around the outside. It's going to be the inside for the next corner, and that was almost going to be inevitable, wasn't it, as the two drivers make contact, still making contact with each other. And I think luckily it was Michael Tucker that just about squeezed through in the Chevrolet. Indeed it was, and that is a donut, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah, but Michael Tucker certainly wasn't much of a donut there in avoiding that incident. He was very cool, calm and collected, but he's going to have now the PlayStation liveried BMW of Max Hunt coming through, and he's the lone BMW with what a lovely car that is. The M8 GT just sounds so great. You can hear the crackles on the downshifts as it goes into the corners. Beautiful bit of kit that. Meanwhile, Richard Abra further in front has got Alec Westbrook for company, and this is the fight for second place. A fight for second place that has had plenty of drama, hasn't it, in the opening laps down this Mulsanne straight. Coming, though, through the S's before Tetra Rouge. The elevation change at this circuit is really something to behold. It's so great. It's a track that I never get tired of, which I suppose is for the best, considering that you're often driving it in an endurance scenario for long, extended periods of time. It's just a really lovely circuit for endurance and sprint racing, which is what we're seeing now. Sprint between Richard Abra and Alec Westbrook with the slipstream now. We can see the closing speed as he makes his way down. Of course, there are differences in setup here between the two cars. I don't know if there's between all of these cars actually this evening. I don't think there is any fixed setups for this evening, though.
No, there isn't. No, it's oh my God, old days. Oh, though you could have done with a fixed break point there, though, couldn't he? Because Richard Abra gets a huge rear end from Alec Westbrook, who just misjudged the braking point just completely there, didn't he? And as we were on board with the nose of Alec's car, that was almost a little bit terrifying. But yeah, it's no fixed setup here in the Pure GT series. That I think Chris Knox did go through, especially when they were driving the Ferrari GT3. He did set like a base setup which he thought was semi-decent but quite accessible for a lot of these drivers, and they use it quite a lot. That's a huge move up the inside by Westbrook, this time getting it nailed, making both apexes. But is he going to make the final one? No, he isn't. But Anthony Mott certainly is, isn't he? Flying through now to try and take not only third position, he's probably got his eyes on second place. And as they go down towards the end of the Mulsanne straight, Richard Abra logs in and out of existence. But it is Anthony Mott trying to go the hard way round around the outside. What's it going to be like down into the hard braking zone into the right-hander? He's going to have his nose ahead. So Anthony Mott all of a sudden promoted into second place and just about keeps it on the out of the gravel.
Yeah, Anthony Mott, I think, was one of the drivers involved in that incident going through the first chicane there, the Dunlop chicane. He's having a great fight back, isn't he, up into second place. However, he's going to have the Corvette of Richard Abra looking down his inside all the way along this Gulf Straight. He gets way into Indianapolis. He could be brave and try and hold it around the outside, but I'm not sure if that would be the smartest thing to do. And quite rightly, Anthony Mott backs out of that one, concedes position now to Richard Abra, who's going to hope to keep in front through the Indianapolis section, then going through Arnage, and then all the way up as well to the Porsche curves. Because if you can stay in front from there, you can try and build a bit of a margin to work with.
You can indeed, yeah. Probably Anthony was thinking about going up the inside or carrying the speed around the outside. He's probably weighing up all the options, but at the end of the day, he was probably thinking more Anthony Knott than Anthony Mott there, just pulling out of that one, and probably quite wisely, because Richard Abra is logging in and out of existence, isn't he, quite badly. I don't know if that's on my end as well as their end, but that's also going to be playing a bit of havoc with the slipstream, isn't it? Because obviously, Le Mans, we've mentioned it, there's a lot of slipstreaming that goes on, but if a car is lagging in and out of existence, that means they're punching a hole in the air. You get a little bit of slipstream effect. As soon as they disappear for a second, you get hit with a wall of wind, don't you? And you sort of lose a mile an hour or two. It's really rather difficult to follow someone and predict where they're going to go.
Yeah, absolutely. I like it when I told you that fact. You thought that it was me accusing someone of having a lag switch, wasn't it? But oh my word.
Oh.
What, something, there's a switch that's been flipped in the brain of Richard Abra, and he's absolutely messed that one up. As he going through the final chicane, something's gone horribly wrong for Richard Abra's concentration. He's been looking so good up until that point, and loses out on both second and also third position. He finds himself all the way in fourth. Look at that, though, two Porsches dicing with one another. Oh, I think Anthony Mott just looked out in that one. It was a very brave option to try going around the outside there from Alec Westbrook, and that bravery is turned to foolishness, I think.
It has indeed, yeah, but it's turned to the fortune of Paul Donkin potentially, because Donkin is now caught back up. I'll tell you what, I have had my, you know how SDK works. As Donkin goes through, actually, Westbrook, there will be no damage on his car. We are still running no damage model on the Pure GT social races, but, well, you know how SDK works, Ed. You know full well that the highlights package, I've just had it waiting to replay that first couple of incidents, but we've just had so much action here at Le Mans. I just haven't been able to actually bring it back, because already, even though it's died down slightly for the top 2, it's heating up yet again for the top 4, isn't it? Because Donkin is trying his best to get past Westbrook, who seems to be yo-yoing slightly, and as we've just had half a straight to just catch our breath. And let's have a look at what happened to Paul Donkin right at the start of this race. This is with Anthony Mott going for 3rd position. And is it just going to be a case of, oh yeah, it's collection, isn't it, with Alex Martin in the lone Ford? And I think we can just maybe get a little clip with Alex Martin. In fact, here it is. So here, going along. Oh, that's a massive lunge up the inside. But I tell you what, Ed, I don't know about you, but that looked like a very aggressive move left from John Westbrook.
I think it was an aggressive move left that John Westbrook wasn't really in control of. It looks like he locks onto the brakes.
Yeah, he does.
You can see there he's not really turned the wheel there. It's just a snag on the brakes that causes the car to jolt. Have a look on board. Yet nothing on the wheel that shows he's moving to the left. It's just a snag of the rear brakes. Brake bias a little bit too far back, potentially going into the corner. A slight lockup, but that's all that it sometimes takes, especially when the cars are racing as close as they often are on the opening lap.
Yeah, this is what happened to Kevin McGlone. Now you're looking at the PlayStation 8 here. I think maybe just gets collected a little bit with it. Oh no, it gets collected from behind actually. And then that Constantina's into a bit of a pileup, which is something that we actually missed on that first lap, wasn't it, Ed? But that's what happened at the rear of the shot. So unfortunately, I think that included Mark Hoskin, Kevin McGlone, Andy Montgomery, Steve Gummer, and Max Hunt. So a whole plethora of cars, unfortunately, getting involved in that incident.
Yeah, absolutely. Meanwhile, further in front, we can see Richard Abra is back up in front of Alec Westbrook, and is now going to have his sight set back on 2nd place. It's just Anthony Mott that he has to dethrone to get up there, and can see further back. Oh, there's a big battle going on here with Mark Hoskin. Once again, another driver getting it all wrong into Arnage. It's such a difficult corner, like I was saying. It's one that you can't really use many braking markers for. There's nothing really to use as a reference point there, especially when it gets dark.
Yeah, well, it's one of those corners. I've only really ever encountered one other like it, where you just go into it and you just think, what's my marker here? What am I looking for? And that is huge off by Max Hunt. As I was looking at my timing tower, don't collect it. Tell you what, that is that's lucky. Well, we'll call it skillful. Actually, he's done about 360s and ended up pointing in the correct direction. So fair play to Max Hunt. Look at that, he's got no damage on. But like I was saying, realistically, there's only one other corner that I've ever driven or been around, and that is the last corner at Thruxton, or the last complex at Thruxton, which obviously the BTCC have just visited. Drove it in the Ginetta Super Cup car, and you go into it, you know, you're flat round church, you're going into about 120 miles an hour. We were actually sort of hitting the limiter, really, with our cars. And you have no idea where your braking zone is. There's no marshal post, there's no cone or anything. You hit the brakes, and you hope you've hit it at the correct point. It's very odd, and that's a lot like the corner that you've just been describing there.
Yeah, it's one that's very tricky to get right, of course. Meanwhile, Anthony Mott, he's been getting it all right up until this point, and keeping Richard Abra behind. But as we are already on to the final lap of the race, you're going to see, well, Martin Thomas has cleared a big margin, hasn't he? 8.5 seconds to 2nd place. But the gap is closing down a lot closer between 2nd and 3rd. 0.4 of a second there or thereabouts. As we see further back what has happened here with Alec Westbrook. This is going down through the S's into Tetra Rouge. Oh, just a wheel onto the grass, and then the car goes straight on into a wall. Thankfully, no damage on the cars. As we see, oh, massive lock up there for Richard Abra.
Yeah, it was huge, wasn't it? He tries to keep it going through the gravel trap, and I'm not sure if he's going to survive Paul Donkin's aggressive manoeuvre here. Well, it wasn't really that aggressive, was he? Because it was really rather easy. But I think Anthony Mott is going to probably take 2nd place now. Try and get a replay of that.
Slowdown as well. Abra's got a slowdown after all of that.
Oh, of course he will. He cut off half the track, basically, didn't he? So it's going to really hurt him. So only really 2 mistakes that I've actually seen Abra do. Well, he's made a few mistakes, to be fair, but 2 major ones. And it's cost him a podium, hasn't it? Apart from that, he's had good pace. But let's have a look and see if we can find where Richard Abra... This is him launching himself up the inside. I think he just misses the braking point.
Yeah, maybe it was the flashing lights of Paul Donkin in the background. You can see the headlights flashing in the background there. Richard Abra gets it all out of shape. He looks for a move down the inside, but gets too heavy on the brakes. As soon as you start locking up in the Corvette, it's very difficult to stop. And in both senses, both to stop locking up and also to stop the car. So I think he has found that out the hard way, unfortunately, and in the process lost several positions and, like you mentioned, fallen out of the fight for the podiums. Meanwhile, there's a fight going on here for what will be 8th position. Mark Hoskin trying to get a good run here, coming out of the Mulsanne corner. Getting a good drive out down the Gulf Straight. What can he do though? Will he be able to close up in time for Indianapolis with 0.6 of a second differential? I'm not sure that'll be enough.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult, isn't it, for him to try and make any kind of moves now. But remember that we do have a couple of reverse grid races coming up. I think obviously the first race is followed immediately by a second one. There is no in between. We don't have to cut to an ad break or anything. That's a huge move up the inside, though. He's completely off the circuit.
Oh no, Richard.
Who's off there? It's Richard Abra. Oh, very close to spitting it into someone.
Oh dear, but there's a massive lockup again. Both of these drivers get it all wrong going into Arnage. But what on earth happened with Richard Abra is, again, this is Indianapolis now. Lock of the brakes, difficult to stop. Like I mentioned, locking the brakes, clatters into the wall, tries to get back on the throttle as hell as he can, but then in doing so, loops the car back around. Unfortunate there for Richard Abra. His evening's just gone from bad to worse. Meanwhile, up in front, Martin Thomas has had a whale of a time, hasn't he?
Yeah, it's been fairly boring. Bit of a test session for Martin Thomas, but he won't mind one bit. He's going to win this race. And it's the first checkered flag of the evening being waved at Martin Thomas for the Pure GT social races. Richard Abra is overtaken, or is in the process of overtaking Michael Tucker. Anthony Mott comes across the line to survive second place. One of the only drivers to not actually have moved off the start. Paul Donkin in third. John Westbrook crosses the line in fourth. Havanas Gevorgian, who we haven't really mentioned at all. Very quiet evening so far for him. Very quiet top five. Although, having said that, he's the only driver to have hit 10 places gained or more in their race. He gained 10 places from 15th to 5th, and we haven't mentioned him once. So that's fairly impressive, and so is that airtime. That not only he's getting right now, but he's giving to someone else by the looks of it. Andy Montgomery just parks himself in at 6th place, and we'll run you through the rest of the order as the drivers start to bleed in over the start-finish line.
Yeah, absolutely. What an end to that race, though. And unfortunately, Christian Abra just couldn't catch a break. He was doing so well up until the end, but of course, like you mentioned, he has a second chance at improving his results with the reverse grid. I think he's just outside, though. It is, what, a 6 reverse grid, I think, for this one?
I believe it is, yeah. First race is a 6, and then I think the second race is a top 10 reverse. Although we always get it mixed up with it. It's top 10 or top
I think it is
12.
top 10.
Yeah, it is normally top 10, I think. So Martin Thomas took the race to victory, and I'm just going to give you a very quick glance of the race results because, as I said, there is really no breathing time before we get onto the grid for the second race of the evening. And indeed, here we go. So it is going to be Mark Hoskin on pole position, Andy Montgomery in second, Havanas Gevorgian in third, Paul Donkin fourth, Anthony Mott in fifth, Martin Thomas in sixth. And if you need to know the finishing order for race one, reverse the top 6. Michael Tucker in 7th, Richard Abra in 8th, Max Hunt in 9th, Paul Wafer 10th, Steve Gummer 11th, Kevin McGlone in 12th, 13th Barry Rabbit, 14th Alex Martin, John Westbrook, and then Alec Westbrook rounding out the field. And we will give you a better view of the finishing order for race number 1 as soon as race number 2 is over, because we do have about a 10-15 minute break between the races to jump in and, well, basically so the drivers can go and have a wee and stuff like that, isn't it? It's more than anything else. But the red lights are about to come onto your screen, so it's going to be Mark Hoskin to lead the way. He was heavily involved in a lot of battles in the first race, and it's a very quick lights out and away we go here for Mark Hoskin. And it's a great start for him as well. Andy Montgomery, Paul Donkin, I tell you what, Martin Thomas is storming back up already up the inside to second place. And it's just a repeat of the first one, isn't it, Ed? But he's not quite got the lead as Paul Donkin fights back on the inside of the Dunlop chicanes. And he's already got second place, but there's a huge scrap in behind.
Yeah, big incident in the background. Paul Donkin was heavily involved in that. Got spun all the way around. Placed backwards for a lot of those first couple of corners. So I think he gets his car back up and running again, but that's really hurt his hopes this evening. Havana's Gevorgian in taking evasive action, got to slow down. In the background, look at that, that's on the run into Tetra Rouge. Oh my word, several cars involved in a car on its roof. Who on earth is that? That might... Actually, I have no idea who that is. There's someone. Someone's having a bad time.
Someone's on their roof, someone's airborne, another person is just having a pint in the pub. I'm not entirely sure what's going on anymore, but at the moment, Martin Thomas is taking the race lead away from Mark Hoskin. Down using the side stream, is what I try and call the slipstream when they're going side by side. And he takes that first position, so already Martin Thomas wasn't messing around, was it? He went from 6th place to 2nd by the first corner, essentially, and he's already up to 1st place. Mark Hoskin, we're going to keep on board with it, or keep following him, sorry, as he tries to try and maybe, you know, make a little bit of effort to try and get back up to 1st place. But I think Martin Thomas has proved that he's got the speed, hasn't he, to pull away from the drivers as long as he can get away into the complexes in the lead.
Yeah, definitely. But look at this, they're fighting back still, aren't they? Mark Hoskin lose it out now as Martin Thomas gets into the race, overshoots the corner on the exit a little bit, but seems to collect it back down, doesn't he? And now he's going to have to watch behind him going into the Mulsanne corner. Another bit of the track which is so fun once you get it in it right consistently, because you have to sort of balance your foot on the brake pedal and try and avoid locking up, well, trying to stop it as hard as you can. Sort of turning all the way through at the start of it, and then you can straighten up the wheel, then quickly turn again for the sharp right hander. You can as well try and carry a deceptively large amount of speed. It's not the slowest corner on the track as you believe from how tight it is. I think the slowest corner on the circuit might actually be Tetra Rouge, not Tetra Rouge, sorry, Arnage.
Yeah, well, it's, you know, a complex circuit, to be honest, isn't it? It's plenty of high downforce corners and obviously very high speeds, top speeds as well. But when it comes down to it, there's plenty of overtaking opportunities. There's plenty of heavy braking zones. And to be honest, that just provides fantastic racing. I much prefer, I'll be brutally honest, I've been, you know, fairly clear on my stance of the Nurburgring whenever I've had to cover a race there. I don't think it's really that optimal for actually brilliant racing. It's a fantastic test of drivers' skill and ability, but realistically, when we actually get down to racing it, especially on a sprint race, the Le Mans I much prefer, and it's because you have these opportunities for slipstreams, but then you also have really high closing speeds, you have late brake zones, you have heavy braking zones as well, and high downforce areas as well, where you can go too wide. So, in my opinion, it's one of the best circuits in the world, and I much prefer it in terms of high-level endurance racing to the Nürburgring.
Yeah, definitely. It's such a great circuit. The Nürburgring is one where you can't really find too many places to pass, like you mentioned, but this is one where you can race all the way through, in the slipstream really does lend itself to a bit of fuel saving as well in the endurance scenarios. But we're going to go to a replay now at the start of the race. Keep your eyes on Paul Donkin. Got caught up by the other pink pig Porsche, and unfortunately he was just a sitting duck in the middle of the circuit then.
He was. I want to say that maybe Anthony Mott, but we're looking at Kevin McGlone, who's got a huge closing speed there, trying to keep his way out of trouble, but then ends up just collecting with Paul Donkin, unfortunately. And then one of the Donut Chevrolet cars is parked backwards as well. I think that's Michael Tucker. I'm just trying to have a look. Maybe Steve Gummer and Richard Abbott. Maybe this is the crash that we saw people going airborne on, as Gummer just goes wide, doesn't he? And then takes off Richard Abbott, and then I believe carries on collecting people, sends 2 people airborne. And, well, that's the reason why we saw someone just flying. I'm not entirely sure what physics we just looked at there. But it's very interesting. Was it John Westbrook? Westbrook was one of them.
John Westbrook got rolled, and then I think it was, like you can see, the other Porsche getting sent airborne and then ended up on its roof on the exit of roof. That's it. Paul Wafer absolutely getting sent the front of Steve Gummer's Porsche. Had like a bit of a sort of a ramp, wasn't it, in the end? It was like a sort of a, what do they call it? The space plate. The place where they take off rockets. I forget the name of it now. I'm an idiot. You know what I mean.
A space station by any chance?
Is it a space station?
Site, a rocket launch? I don't know what. I don't,
launch pad.
Launch pad. We'll call it a launch pad. Yeah, for now. This all of a sudden they're going 2 by 2 by 2, aren't they? As we cut back live, Andy Montgomery, Alex Martin involved, Paul Donkin. Anthony Mott, they're all going for him. This is going to be really rather interesting, isn't it? It's almost like we've cut back and we've gone to a rolling start as they start to delve back in to be a little bit safer with each other. Anthony Mott leads through from Max Hunt, who's missed the second apex very heavily indeed. And Mark Hoskin goes to the inside. Andy Montgomery gets a poor run out as well, which allows Alex Martin through. And then, Andy Montgomery's there as well. Alec Westbrook has got 5.5 seconds back. This is a fantastic little battle that we're getting for the top half of the mid-pack.
Yeah, definitely. So here is Alexander Martin currently trying to defend, actually, in the background from Andy Montgomery. Looking back down the inside, but I think Montgomery backs out on that occasion. Look at that. The BMW loose on exit, losing a little bit of time. That's allowing Paul Donkin to try and get through. Max Hunt was the driver of the BMW we saw losing the rear just a little bit. And also the slipstream now is really going to work out for him as well as the little bit of side draft you can get, which is basically the effect of that is less about the actual less air resistance, but more about the air getting pushed onto your opponent's rear wing, which slows them down more, gives them more drag. So the wake from the front of your car can actually serve as a way to slow down an opponent rather than speed yourself up.
You know, I never actually knew that, as I did know that the driver in the background there who went into the wall, though, was Andy Montgomery. That's unfortunate. He's in 8th place at the moment. I fear that maybe we'll be losing more as he rejoins the circuit. But a flash of lights there by Paul Donkin. He's been featured heavily, hasn't he? But yeah, I didn't actually know about the fact that when you were going side by side with someone, it's actually pushing the air onto their rear wing rather than basically you're sitting in another pocket of air. I didn't know that. So there you go, Ed. You've taught me something tonight.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of factors, but the bigger key is, of course, that what we just seen there, Paul Donkin. I'm going to have to get that previous thought well out of my mind and watch that, because that was brilliant, wasn't it? Paul sending it down the inside of Mark Hoskin. Here's a replay of this. You can see that there's some sort of mistake potentially being made by Mark Hoskin. And Paul, he doesn't need to take a second chance, does he? He immediately goes for the move. I think there might be a slowdown or something. Actually, no, just overshoots it. Then look at it. He sees the gap. He goes for it. Oh, brilliant stuff. But if that didn't go the way he'd hoped, then he'd be looking like a right idiot.
Yeah, well, it's one of the bravest moves I've ever seen. And to be fair, I've seen a lot of brave moves, actually, in the Pure GT series. I wouldn't say that any of the moves haven't been brave. I would say that was the most well-executed brave move that I've seen in the Pure GT social races. That was absolutely incredible. So I'm very glad that we caught that one on stream. It was very good. And to be fair, though, the rest of the field we're starting to gap a little bit, aren't we, as we're on to the third out of the 4 laps, penultimate lap, you could say. Alex Martin and Max Hunt obviously getting nice and close to each other, but apart from that, Martin Thomas is yet again streaks ahead of everyone else. He's got a 6-second gap to Anthony Mott, who yet again is in 2nd place. Paul Donkin yet again is in 3rd. Mark Hoskin in 4th, and then obviously this little battle that you're seeing on screen now between Alex Martin, Max Hunt, and Alec Westbrook. Alec obviously qualifying on pole position. I think this is the 3rd week in a row. In fact, actually, since we went to the Nurburgring last time we were out in GTEs, that Alec Westbrook has been absolutely flying in qualifying, but in the race hasn't had any luck at all. Hasn't had any silverware, but they're going to go 3 wide into the chicane. Can Alec Westbrook finally turn his luck around? He's made the braking zone. He's made the first apex. And it looks like that Alex Martin has fallen down to the back of this little pack for now.
Yeah, he certainly has, hasn't he, Alec Westbrook? Getting up involved in the mix, a fight up through the fields, gaining 11 positions since the start of the race. A great drive on display by the number 2 Porsche. But the slipstream is allowing the BMW M8 of Max Hunt to have a little bit of a look down the inside. It'd be a lunge if he was to go for it, and he backs out of it this time by and might try and hope for a better run out of the 2nd Mulsanne chicane. Get the run into Mulsanne corner, but again, doesn't seem to be going off here. So for now, I think this fight might start to drop off a little. I was say that. No, Alec Westbrook darts to the left, then darts to the right, tries to get the car out of the slipstream in the background, murders a cone in the process, gets it stopped, I think, just about in time for the most. As I say that, not enough. He gets a mistake, and I think Max Hunt passes down through. Yes, it does. A mistake from Alec Westbrook has cost him a position there.
Yeah, unfortunately, just missed that as I was looking for another fight just in the background. But you're right, Alec, just going wide, wasn't it? It wasn't really anything too dramatic. This was the fight that I was looking for. Andy Montgomery losing out on Michael Tucker. They were going nicely side by side as Andy Montgomery just looks a little bit wide there, doesn't he? He doesn't actually get the car stopped in time to go and lunge at the apex. But again, Max Hunt and Alec Westbrook, this fight seems to be heating up, and that's allowing Alex Martin back in it as well. I don't think that they've got any threat from Andy Montgomery, who is going side by side again with Michael Tucker. I don't think there's any threat of these two catching up with that fight, as they're 13 seconds back and we're about to go on to the final lap of the race. But it's still very entertaining in the process. Richard Abra, just seen him throwing the back end a little bit loose in the background there, and it's not been quite the recovery drive that we were expecting from him. He's shown fantastic pace, but never really got it back going, has he?
No, he hasn't, which is a bit of a shame, you have to say, that it's not quite going the way he'd been hoping after the incident earlier on. But Max Hunt, he's been able to have a good run, hasn't he, through this middle sector, through the Porsche curve, and then as he makes his way out of Maison Blanche, a quick little chicane, and then you've got to get into the sort of the 4 chicanes. The first one, like you can see, sending it through. Avoiding the curbs, you can actually take quite a bit of curb there, especially on the final corner as well. Be careful though not to run wide, because you'll be vulnerable going into the first corner, or the first couple of corners rather. That keeping it nice and safe as we have now started the final lap of the race.
We have indeed. Yeah, John Westbrook's just had a little incident, so let's have a quick look at what's happened here. Just runs a little bit wide, ends up scraping the Armco barrier, goes back for second bite at the cherry, and then thinks about the gravel, decides that he's full, and just goes for more Armco as he parks up alongside on the grass on the inside.
Yeah, a bit of a little bit of a moment there, getting easily done those that when you dip a wheel out onto the grass there, it's sort of sucks you towards it. Meanwhile, Montgomery here, we can see, is getting involved with the Donut Corvette, seeing if he can get past Michael Tucker, but Michael defends that for the time being. But then, of course, will be vulnerable down on the exit of Tetra Rouge on the Mulsanne straight. So here we can see a fight as well. The second position, Anthony Mott and Paul Donkin getting together. 2 Pink Pig Porsches. Very different shades of pink on display. I'm not sure which one is more preferred. I'm not sure about you. I think the first one's more salmon.
I was going to say, I feel like the front one's a little bit deeper, is a little bit darker. I probably prefer Donkin's shade, shall we say, for now. But it's Anthony Mott who's weaving all around like a salmon, isn't he? Trying to make sure he's breaking that slipstream. There was, at one point, about 2.5 seconds between these two drivers, but now Anthony Mott and Paul Donkin are just as close as the fight that we've been seeing between Westbrook, Hunt and Martin. You don't really know where to see it. Richard Abra goes ahead of Montgomery, who must have made a mistake because they were falling over each other against Michael Tucker. Westbrook gone through on Hoskin as well. And just as these guys seem to have calmed down, just as I say that, as soon as I cut the cameras away, you know they'll just lunge up to each other, won't they?
Yeah, like you say, so we're going to come now into Mulsanne corner, and well, if we're going to keep the salmon anecdotes up going, well, Paul Donkin, much like a salmon, is downstream, isn't he? The slipstream from Anthony Mott is really going to help him as he makes his way towards Indianapolis.
Yeah, don't pull a muscle there trying to reach for that one, mate. That was a bit of a stretch, I think. No, I appreciate the effort. You're right, Paul Donkin.
Only the best for you, Jack. Only the best.
Love how you're pulling it out there. Yeah, Paul Donkin and Anthony Mott, they've been fighting this way for quite some time. They didn't really ever get to a head in the first race, but I'm loving the fact that they finally, even if it's only half a lap, that they're actually taking it to each other in this one as well. Obviously, there's no championship points up for grabs here. It's all about pride, so there's really nothing stopping them just trying to lunge each other into the final corner, is there? As Hunt has got past Hoskin again. That's a fantastic little fight in the midfield. Maybe we'll try and get a few replays of those overtakes as we go into the little bit of a break interlude between race 2 and 3. But this is now the closest fight you've got on circuit, and it is for second place. If anybody's wondering what this is, who they're chasing is Martin Thomas, who we haven't mentioned hardly at all. We will cut to him as he's about to cross the finishing line, but he's driven impeccably in both race 1 and 2, and to be honest, his start was some of the best starts we've seen in pure GT racing, Ed.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think this fight's going down well. It has those. Mark Hoskin getting past Max Hunt as Max Hunt then passes by. I think there must have been an incident because Mark Hoskin
Been a
then
crash.
drops back once more. Oh, never going. Hoskin gets back up against Hunt. It's all kicking off in the background, but once more, Martin Thomas, he's been up in the lead of the race and not looked back since.
That second checkered flag of the evening is waved the way of Martin Thomas. He's got 2 first-place trophies to his name, and I'm sure he'll be very pleased about it. Anthony Mott and Paul Donkin are both on the podium as well, yet again, and in the same order that they were in the first race. Alec Westbrook rounds out the top 4. Alex Martin going to come across the line in the top 5. Mark Hoskin just about holding off Max Hunt. They've had a right good ding-dong throughout the whole of this race, which is really refreshing and nice to see. Michael Tucker, Richard Abbott trying to get a good run out in his Corvette versus Corvette race here. Andy Montgomery unfortunately slipped back to top 10 position. And then there's a few of the drivers coming across the line. Kevin McGlone, Steve Gummer and Paul Wafer to come across the line. But let's just have a quick look at Max Hunt as he unfortunately fell down the order, obviously, on the last half of that lap. This is him in the BMW. Is it just going to be a squirm? Yeah, he just hit the curb a little bit hard there, didn't he? And it just upset the car. And that's how he came into contact with Mark Hoskin.
Yeah, so Max Hunt, they're spinning his BMW around again. That's not the first time we've seen him have a moment into that corner. Basically, at the same point, wasn't it? That time, though, Mark Hoskin did get collected there. Well, very evasive action had to be done there by the Ford of Alexander Martin. But we've now come, haven't we, to the end of the second race of the evening. We
have indeed, yeah. So I think what we're going to do... My days, that was very loud. What we're going to do is probably have the results from Heat 1 fully ran through for you, and then bring you the results of Heat number 2. So let's have a look at those results for the first race of the evening. It's Martin Thomas ahead of Anthony Mott and Paul Donkin. And to be honest, we could just leave it there if you wanted to have the second race results as well. Havana Gevorgian, though, came 4th in the race 1. Andy Montgomery in 5th. Mark Hoskin in 6th. Michael Tucker in 7th. I don't know why I'm struggling to read this. 8th is Richard Abra. Max Hunt in 9th. Top 10 was Paul Wafer. Steve Gummer in 11th. Kevin McGlone in 12th. Barry Rabbit in 13th. Alex Martin 14th. John Westbrook in 15th. And Alec Westbrook ended up 1 lap down, and I think finishing in the pits in 16th position. The race that we just covered then, the second race of the evening, also saw Martin Thomas take the victory with Anthony Mott and Paul Donkin in 2nd and 3rd. Alec Westbrook, though, it was turn to take 4th place. Alex Martin in 5th place. Mark Hoskin in 6th. Max Hunt in 7th. Michael Tucker in 8th. 9th is Anthony Montgomery. Kevin McGlone in 10th. Steve Gummer in 11th. Richard Abra 12th. 13th was Paul Wafer and a lap down. John Westbrook was also a lap down in 14th. Havana Gevorgian 2 laps down, and Barry Rabbit didn't take the start line.
Yes, absolutely. So, Alex, you mentioned reverse top 10. That's going to be one to really look out for, isn't it, Jack? I'm really looking forward to when we come back from our little break to get back into the action.
Yeah, indeed. So, look out for Kevin McGlone on pole position, but we will be back in a couple of minutes, so don't go anywhere. We're just going to try and let the guys have a quick 5-minute break, go to the toilet, get a cup of tea, and that means you guys too can also do such things. So we'll be back in a couple of minutes here on Jacko Racing. Right, we're going in. Hello and welcome back to Pure GT Social Races. I've just looked and they've gone to the grid for the third race of the evening without anybody telling me. So sit back and enjoy the fact that we have the third race of the evening. It's caught us commentators by surprise a little bit. It's going to be Kevin McGlone on pole position, and I've just realised the relay even needs, it's caught out the overlays even. There we go, we've reloaded and backed in. Kevin McGlone on pole position, Andy Montgomery in second place, Michael Tucker in third, Max Hunt in fourth, Mark Hoskin lands out the top 5. It has been a top 10 reverse grid, so if you're looking for the grid, because I'm not sure if we have time to run through it now, you can see on the timing tower on the left hand side of your screen. And Ed, we're back in.
Yeah, we are. Right, Kevin McGlone then from pole position. What can he manage? He's got Andy Montgomery for company down the inside, and we've seen Andy get a few good starts already this evening. Can he have a clean start, though? That's going to be key for all of these drivers. Get away down the inside. You can see Andy Montgomery, no wheel spin whatsoever. Good run, but Max Hunt has had a blinding start, hasn't he? Down the centre of your shot there. He's going to go wheel to wheel and actually up into the lead of the race. So Max Hunt is 3 positions before they even go through with corner and angle. Oh, look at that, the Corvette getting a little bit loose there. Contact with the Ford. Has to take a base of action off the circuit as the several drivers on our race leader. Max Hunt has spun out, and now look at this man, Martin Thomas, from way down 10th on the grid, all of a sudden up into the lead once more.
I'll have whatever Martin Thomas is having for breakfast or dinner or lunch or everything, because his turn of pace has been absolutely sensational here tonight. But as I say that, he's been mugged into taking third position as he's given a touch there to Kevin McGlone, and Mark Hoskin's gone off as well. Alex Martin takes the race lead, and to be fair to Alex Martin, they had an absolute blinding start off the start line. I think they went from about 8th to 2nd place, which was quite incredible. But Martin Thomas now in 2nd place, finally fighting with Paul Donkin. And Donkin, I'm sure this is a race that he's been thriving at the mouth for the entire evening, or foaming at the mouth for, I should say. But look at this in the background as well. Anthony Mott, they're going 3 wide into the chicane. Mott backs out of it, probably wisely, as Richard Abra goes up the inside of him as well.
Yeah, look at this. Anthony Mott then trying to get back on the circuit after battling with Richard Abra. Does so, slots in behind, might get a nice bit of slipstream further in front. Meanwhile, in the background, look at that. Is that a slowdown here for Martin Thomas? He's going to be dropping over to the left-hand side of the circuit, seemingly allowing the Porsche to pass by. That was John Westbrook. Is some of the other cars going to go by as well? You can see the Corvette of Richard Abra having a look. The 2 green cars going side by side. And yes, there must have been something going on with Martin Thomas potentially trying to clear a slowdown. And there's contact again. Gone from the lead of the race all the way down the order now. Little touch between himself and Anthony Mott. He tries to get it facing the right way. Comes into contact again with the tyre barriers. Oh my word, it's just going south in the worst of ways possible, isn't it, for Martin Thomas after 2 great races early. The 3rd race, sadly, he's not having that luck once more. But Alexander Martin from the lead of the race. What is happening to drivers when they get in the lead in this feature race? Incidents and accidents and mistakes seemingly befalling them. Alex Martin now drops down to 6th place. Possibly make that 7th or 8th.
Yeah, and just a quick replay of the start. I didn't mean to initiate, I'll be honest. So we're going to go back live. But there are 2 drivers that I want to keep an eye on if we do go back to the race start replay, and that is Alex Martin and Martin Thomas, because they both had absolutely stunning off the line maneuvers, and obviously somehow Thomas got into the lead of the race, and we're not entirely sure how it actually ended up going that way. Richard Abra going through on John Westbrook. Paul Donkin is now in the lead of the race, and all of a sudden has an opportunity to pull away from some drivers. But Richard Abra has not been slow, has he, tonight, Ed? He's been very quick indeed, and he's in 2nd position at the moment. His 2nd race didn't go his way. His 1st one was very unlucky. He made a couple of too many mistakes with the lockup of the tyres. Maybe he's given the setup a tweak. Maybe he's whacked the brake bias back slightly so he has a little bit of better balance. We'll see if he can launch an attack on Paul Donkin.
Here we go, see what he can manage here. Look at this wheel turn around the outside. There goes Anthony Mott on Havanas Gevorgian, sweeping his car through. You can see again, is there a slight mistake from Havanas, or is that Havanas just getting out of the way, potentially maybe clearing a slowdown, or just being a bit kinder? We'll potentially never know. But further in front, Richard Abra now He's, like you mentioned, trying to see if he can close the margins to Paul Donkin, who is leading the race. Got a margin of 1.5 seconds now. The bright pink Porsche's car's blinking in and out a little bit for me. I'm not sure if that's the same for you, Jack. It seems that Orion's struggling at the moment.
Yeah, well, Richard Abba has been jumping in and out a little bit throughout the entire evening, so we'll focus on John Westbrook. But actually what we're going to do is we are going to go back to the start, and we're going to have a look of Martin Thomas's point of view, because this is going to be something to behold, I feel, because obviously, remember, he started in 10th position. Now he's going to go down. That's a fantastic start that he's been managing to nail every single time. He's already passed 3 drivers into 7th place. Now he sees a wall of cars ahead of them, and he knows full well that the Pure GT is not always the oh my days, it's not the smoothest of starts. That was Michael Tucker and Alex Martin, but look at that move up the inside. A huge lunge up by Martin Thomas, and he just straight lines to the second chicane as well. Keep an eye on him as he goes down the Dunlop chicanes, because he does end up dropping back into 3rd place or something, and obviously he has the spin later on, so we're just going to see. I
think it's a slowdown that he has to try and clear because of the evasive action he took into the first chicane. So you can see now, left-hand side of your screen, the cars are going to blitz on by as he makes his way through Tetra Rouge. If he was able to clear the slowdown a little bit sooner, maybe that incident wouldn't have happened, and we wouldn't have seen, obviously, like we mentioned, that Porsche getting collected in the background. Meanwhile, on board with Alexander Martin. Now look at this, he goes down to the inside of one of the Porsches. I think there's other Porsches to the left-hand side. A Corvette, the donut Corvette, jumps into the shot. Oh, and there is a little bit of contact here, you can see in the shot, and then turning into the corner, contact once more. And then just has to straight line in the corner to avoid all the cars on the left-hand side.
Yeah, so 2 on board there to get an idea of what the first lap was like. But I tell you what, the BMW Max Hunt, that's the driver I feel sorry for, because they got really good start into turn 1 in 1st place, and then just ended up spinning it as they transferred the weight to try and make the right-hand corner, didn't they, at the end of the chicane, and just ended up spinning round, which is a bit gutting for him. So at the moment, your top 10 runs down like this. Paul Donkin in 1st position, Richard Abra in 2nd, Anthony Mott yet again on the podium as it stands in 3rd. 10 places gained for John Westbrook, 10 places gained for Havana Trevorgian as well in 4th and 5th place. 6th is Michael Tucker, 7th is Mark Hoskin, 8th is Martin Thomas, who I'm sure will be hoping to maybe catch a few drivers in the process of this race. Kevin McGlone in 9th place, with Alex Martin ended up in 10th, and Andy Montgomery, and basically that is it at the moment. I think we've only got 11 drivers joining us for this final race of the evening.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that several drivers have been involved in incidents, but that's sometimes the way that these feature races go, isn't it? When the drivers, it's all on the cards and all of the action suddenly comes all at once. Drivers do get involved. There's an incident that's been further up. John Westbrook, maybe something has happened at Indianapolis for him. This is the corner, big lock up there, loses control of the car off of the circuit, and then he decides to tow back into the pit lane, I guess, with all the cars passing by. He's going to have to stay there for quite some time.
Yeah, Martin Thomas, and just got back Mark Hoskin, and that's why Hoskin going wide and getting a terrible exit, which is why Michael Tucker, Kevin McGlone and Martin Thomas both go flying past them as well. So interesting to see Hoskin, unfortunately, losing out on that one there. I know he has a few people in the chat who always like to get involved and give him some support. It's not quite gone Hoskin's way, unfortunately.
Yeah, it sadly hasn't. Like you mentioned, the 666 Corvette fallen on some hard times. Meanwhile, well, we can see Steve Gummer and Max Hunt out on the circuit. They're going down the Mulsanne Straight while everyone else is about going through the first course. They've unfortunately been involved in an incident, but got back out on track together and having a good little tussle for, 11th place. Steve Gummer getting through. Well, let's see, Gummer losing out actually as Max Hunt gets through, but now Slipstream is going to work out for him actually. He's going to try and opt to do a different strategy, maybe try and get his wheels across the middle ridge, because there's actually a way to get a little bit more speed. There's a little bit of the way the track dips over to the left-hand side and the right-hand side, and by getting on that middle section, not sure if it's something to do with the cambers or maybe the sort of a lower ride height, potentially lower gap between your car and the bottom of the racing surface. that allows you to get a little bit extra speed.
I'm not entirely sure, didn't know that either, but I'm guessing it's pretty logical because obviously the rain needs to run off, given that these are public highways for most of the time, or aren't they, around here at Le Mans? So, the rain needs to run off at some point, so that's why they maybe fall away from the middle of the circuit. But one driver that's not falling away from the fight, though, is Max Hunt, is he? And you're right, after maybe what was a quite a frantic first couple of corners or first couple of laps, these drivers are at least back out, even if they are a lap down or two, given it even if they're only fighting for 11th place. But at the end of the day, this is social racing, isn't it? It's not for championship points. So if there's a fight out there to be had, you might as well try and go out there and enjoy yourself.
Yeah, so that's the main thing, isn't it? Is just trying to enjoy it yourself and try and have a little bit of fun, isn't it? As we see now, good fun little battle going on with Michael Tucker. He's going to have to defend from Hovhannes Gevorkian, and Hovhannes is up 10 places since the beginning of the race. So a very good job indeed from him, as is Richard Aber as well, gaining 10 places up into second position. This is the closest fight though, isn't it, between Tucker and Gevorkian. You can see in the background as well, Martin Thomas, don't count him out of this fight just yet. He's been showing great pace since his instant fastest in Sector 1 and Sector 3. What can he pull off here though?
Yeah, well, Paul Donkin's actually set the fastest lap of the race at the moment, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Martin Thomas take that away from him. He's got about half a second behind at the moment on that previous lap. However, Thomas has set 2 purple sectors so far in this lap alone. And have I ever told you about one of my biggest motorsport regrets, Ed? We've been working for a long time, but I had actually the opportunity to go to Le Mans for the 24 hours as a spectator. I don't think I've ever said anything about it, have I?
Oh, I actually, as you mentioned that, I've unfortunately not been able to go abroad to any racing circuits. No exotic circuit I've been to has been Cadwell Park. That's the furthest from my sort of home, I guess, that I've been to. And yeah, I can really imagine that being trackside for the Le Mans 24 hour must have been a great experience.
Well, it would have been, but I actually turned it down. That's my biggest regret. I actually turned down the opportunity to go. I think I had something else on at the same time, but my brother actually raced, not in the actual 24-hour race, but he raced in the Porsche Super Cup series that actually Michael Kreese has just announced that he's driving in this year. But Tom went over and he guest starred in it, and along with a whole host of other drivers. Dan Camish was in there as well, back when they were all racing in Porsche Carrera Cup GB. And they all, my brother and dad and his friends and everything went, and they had a big RV and they went over to Le Mans, and I decided not to go for whatever stupid reason. That's one of my singular greatest motorsport regrets, actually, is not taking up their offer on that one, because it is a fantastic circuit, isn't it? And it's always one on the calendar that as soon as the calendars start to come out, you have a look at the Nurburgring 24, probably the Spa 24, and Le Mans 24 as well. It's easily the highlights in world motorsport.
Yeah, definitely. It's certainly on my bucket list to go there trackside for one Le Mans 24 in the future. And let's hope that we can all get back to normal, and hopefully we can go trackside for this year's Le Mans 24. Meanwhile, you've seen a little bit of a moment there from Michael Tucker. Gets the first chicane, all sorts of out of shape. Allows Martin Thomas an easy time, an easy overtake there.
Can't believe that Martin Thomas is within touching distance, in terms of Le Mans touching distance of about 8 seconds of a podium position here. But to be fair, he hasn't lost a race. Sorry, he's won both the first 2 races by a margin of 8 seconds, and now he's got 8 seconds to a podium after having that huge incident, probably one of the most crucial parts of any circuit, and that is the mid chicane down the Mulsanne straight, which is quite incredible. The fact that he had to get back going, he was in dead last place, and he's managed to make his way up to 4th position is something quite incredible. And we were having a look at his lap times just before, and he has missed out on the best lap time of the race by 1/10 of a second, so he hasn't quite got it. That's still going the way of Paul Donkin as it stands, who, to be fair, we haven't put enough respect on the name for this race, have we? Because he's been pretty impeccable. He's been a bit of a star driver for the first 2 races as well, but never really had the rub of the green. Now he's had the opportunity to get the track position. He hasn't let it go, has he?
He certainly hasn't. You're right there. And having a look as well at the lap times being set. Last lap was a 4:10 for Anthony Mott. but for Martin Thomas, it was a 3-minute 53. So, potentially, if Anthony Mott can't quite get the pace back underneath him, he could be getting caught very quickly by Martin Thomas. We're going to see what can happen. You can see, though, two cars pulling off, getting well out of the way of the leaders here as they come through for the final time this evening down the Gulf Straight.
Yeah, exactly. We're having a look at Paul Donkin and Richard Abra, our two race leaders, and like you said, we are on the final lap of the race, and not only the final lap of the race, but the final lap of the evening as well, and it's absolutely flown by. As I said, Le Mans doesn't get used enough, in my opinion, which is slightly weird in saying that, but just not a lot of smaller series decide to go there because it is such a big daunting track. They often go to the Nordschleife, but that's another rant for another day. So it's been nice to actually visit here. The Pure GT guys, they've been to a whole host of massive circuits on the iRacing server. They've been to Spa twice with the F3 and the Ferrari GT3 as well. They've been to Imola. Where else have we been? Have they been to Daytona, or was that another series? What else have you joined me on for the Pure GT, actually? They've all gone out of my head. They've been to Suzuka. I can't
quite remember. Yeah, I think we've done Suzuka before. We've obviously done Le Mans. I think we've done some rounds elsewhere as well.
Monza, I remember them being.
Monza was quite good, yeah.
I can't believe that I've actually blanked. There's so many rounds of the Pure GT series. We have done it every week pretty much since the start of the year, which has been fantastic. We've been able to see the drivers get better. And I have to say, the first ever one I watched was at Lime Rock Park, and the driving standards were pretty atrocious. It's a lot better nowadays, and Paul Donkin is epitomising that with taking the checkered flag here for race 3 of the evening. Richard Abra comes home in second place. Anthony Mott is going to come across to complete 100% podium finishes here at Le Mans, with Martin Thomas just missing out on
fastest lap.
Oh, that fastest lap, yeah.
Again for Anthony Mott. Brilliant charge of pace there.
A huge lead for fastest lap as well. Realistically, Martin Thomas just come across the line for a 3-minute 3:53 dead, and Mott has gone 0.3 quicker. So a 52.69 might have been one of the first 52s that we've seen actually as well. So yeah, like I was saying, realistically, from when I jumped on to start broadcasting the Pure GT, when they were back in the Ferrari GT3s at Lime Rock Park, it's been complete night and day. And I'd say even since you've joined us, Ed, for the last month and a half or so, there's been a big improvement in driving standards, isn't there?
Yeah, there really has. It's been great to see, isn't it, the drivers adapting and obviously getting into GT machinery when they've been more used to the Formula 3s. It has thrown a little bit of a surprise for some of the drivers, a little bit of an adjustment period maybe needed, but if all of the races are this exciting, then bring it on. Of course, Pure GT, they want to do whatever's fun for them, and if they find another combination, then I'm certainly down to enjoy that as well.
Yeah, indeed we are. So let's bring you the results for the final time, for the final race this evening. It was Paul Donkin, my goodness, Jack, get your words out. Paul Donkin coming across the line to take first position, with Richard Abra in second, Anthony Mott in third, Martin Thomas was fourth, with Michael Tucker in fifth, Havana Gevorgian in sixth, Mark Hoskin in seventh, Kevin McGlone in eighth, Alex Martin in ninth. Top 10 was rounded out by Andy Montgomery, and then the rest of these drivers are at least one lap down. Max Hunt, Steve Gummer, John Westbrook, Alec Westbrook, Paul Wafer, and Barry Rabbit. So we had a slightly smaller grid here this evening, Ed, but I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to think about it, but I'm going to introduce Driver of the Day for the Pure GT series. Doesn't necessarily have to be the person who would have scored the most points if this was a championship or anything like that. Maybe a driver who's improved the most for you, who's had a standout weekend or evening, sorry. Any thoughts along the lines of who maybe you would pick out for your Driver of the Day?
Well, Anthony Mott, with his consistent ability to finish in the top section, isn't to finish in the top 3 positions all evening. He's got to be up there. And of course, Martin Thomas winning the first 2 races and clawing his way back up through the odds to finish 4th in that final race. I've got to say, Martin Thomas has been very standout there. The only driver as well in the Ferrari.
Yeah, I have to say it may be slightly boring and slightly predictable, because obviously Martin Thomas, he scored 2 race victories and then came just outside the top 3, but I would say probably Martin Thomas would be, I think, the biggest improvement that we've seen. Martin hasn't always been right at the sharp end of the grid, so I'd probably give it to him. But a special shout out, you giving one to Anthony Mott, Paul Donkin as well. He hasn't really been at the sharp end for too much either, but he's got 100% podiums this evening as well. So congratulations to those 3. It's probably our drivers to look out for, but specifically Martin Thomas. You win. Pride. I have nothing else to offer you, unfortunately. But thank you very much for watching. We're going to have to jump away now. There's nobody jumping in for the interview, so we'll probably say goodnight for now. It's been a pleasure having everyone along. Thank you very much for watching, whether you have been commenting, sharing, liking, or just generally having it on in the background. It's been a pleasure having you. My name's been Jack Oliphant. I have been joined by the ever-present Ed May on Jacko Racing for the Pure GT Social Races here at Le Mans. We'll see you next week. Bye.